Hey, it's Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. So I decided, given all the issues, I'm just going to do episodes 7 and 8 as one review. I mean, it's two-parter. It's closely tied together. And it's hard to sort of break it down to sort of like nitpicky review, whatever you want to call it, with separation. You know, so where to start? Well, the first place to start is what I said after the fifth and sixth episode, which is we're now at the point after they've done the first four episodes of changing quite a bit of stuff that we're stuck with what they changed, at least until next season. If hopefully they'll fire all these writers and hire some good ones who will get back to where the show should be, and because you can fix this. They have the costumes, they have the actors, at least 9 out of every 10 actors. They have the setting, they have the music, they have the bending. They're just lacking the cohesive storytelling that conveys the story in the animation. Doesn't have to be. It's not. It can't match one to one, of course, but it can be faithful and mostly tell the same story. Okay, especially since they have about the same amount of runtime in live action as they do for each season, and you could have, there's always, for instance, some live action anime style stuff like face falls you couldn't do in live action or whatever, and some of the movement makes less sense in live action. That's all given. There's a way that we can do adaptations. Okay. So that all being said, okay, um, I've begun. It took me six. I watched all the episodes, and then I went back and said, I'm not trying to nitpick this and saying, like I said, I don't want to make my videos solely about saying, well, they did it better in the animation, so blah 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 over and over again. Because honestly, there's a lot of people who do the detailed breakdowns. I don't know if this Peru is going to do this series or not, but he's the most detailed breakdown guy that you can think of. Night's Watch does some pretty decent breakdown and so forth. So I'm just trying to offer you my opinion on what was good, what was bad, and why it went bad. And so we'll start with why it went bad. And I realized after I watched the two episodes, and I felt like I should watch the last two episodes of the animation of the season one of the animation because it's roughly the same battle and all that, just to sort of because something was bothering me, and like there's a lot of things bothering me. I kept looking at a couple characters and thinking just something was off. And I finally realized something. I'm going to show you an image. Okay, so this is our princess. Okay, and what's so different, right? Um, well, okay, so I'm not. This isn't a race issue. Obviously, this is skin tone. Who cares? That's nonsensical. Obviously, and here's a change you have to make. She has anime eyes. You can't do anime eyes live action because the ratio of pupil to rest of eye looks wrong. So what else could they do? Well, the symbol is in the hair, right? Well, the hair. And I tried to get as close as possible to the same facial orientation, right? And it hit me. So I mean, the hairstyle on the live action version of the princess looks abominable. Whereas on the anime version of it, it looks like a teenage princess might have in this type of setting. So then I'm thinking, like, okay, did they change the character enough for the more older hairstyle to look? And remember, she's supposed to have pure white hair, okay? Not that grayed, weird looking hair, like old people hair. She's supposed to have white hair, like, so they made the character, they gave her an old, so again, I'm not going to quibble over the hairstyle. I would say this. This is what it made me realize. The people running this show, who are left, who after they kicked the original showrunners off, are disdainful of the original show and think and have taken a job where they're taking characters and concepts and one from the original show and saying, we could write a better story. We can tell the same story in a far better way. And it's little details like this that show you that that they don't understand or care that the little details matter. It's not that her particular hairstyle matters. It's what I finally realized. This was just a peak of it. They don't understand Aang's journey at all, in the sense that they don't understand it as having value the way he did it in the show. Okay, and we'll talk when Aang makes Koizilla, which I believe is the term they're throwing around in for the live action, but he makes Koizilla in from the point that Aang makes Koizilla, right when he goes in the pond, till the end of the rampage. Aang is in a giant koi kaiju. Okay, and I know there were people trying to make fun, like claiming, oh, blah blah blah. I'm like, they must have forgot the final episode. Okay, but the difference is in what Aang does and why. Okay, in the animation, Aang jumps into the pond because he's gonna you take the power of the spirit, the ocean spirit, and use that to save everyone because he has no other options left. He's gonna say the Avatar sometimes has to be that violent guy. It has to balance the world between the spirits and the living and all that sort of stuff. It's a step up of responsibility. Whereas in the live action, remember I said we're stuck with the alter story they made. Aang has been running away from his responsibilities. Aang has been doubting his ability to do anything. Okay, and Aang when he goes to the same pivotal point after the moon spirit has been murdered, right? The ocean spirit is wrathful. So Aang jumps in and gives himself up to the ocean spirit, surrendering his life and accepting and saying, I'm going to die, I'm going to let it take over my body, right? Basically saying, screw being the Avatar and responsibility, abandon all his responsibility. So the ocean spirit can go on a rampage. Understanding the way he did that, that ocean spirit was going to go on a rampage and wipe out, like, not just the Fire Nation ships, but keep going and probably kill the rest of the Fire Nation. Okay? Because this was about the spirits have become unbalanced and they were going to punish mankind. That was the theme in the animation that you had to stop. Whereas they did it in the live action, and so that was Aang's story being mauled there, right? Okay. Aang was in control in the animation, okay, because he was using the power of the spirit to right an injustice, to counterbalance in some way the actions of Fire Kingdom, okay, Fire Nation, and on and on. You have, well, like, you can go on and on with the changes they've made to a lot of characters in the live action because the showrunners are disdainful of the story told in the original animation. Okay, that is the fundamental problem with this adaptation. Right? It's not a woke thing. I know there's people gonna put woke this. It's oh yeah, we'll get one more. You know, we'll so. And here's one more fundamental break, right? So, I know there were people going on about, saying, oh, it's woke, they're having Katara be the agreed female because she discriminates. Well, as it turns out, as for those who watch it, the same thing happened in the animation. The Northern Water Tribe had a tradition where men fought and women healed. Women were protected for their advanced, nurturing natures. It was a survival trait, and tribal peoples, which they are, because the advantage of Fire Nation, they were developing all that military technology, which was an analogy for the technologies of Europe and Asia overwhelming the rest of the world's tribal peoples. That was one of the things they were going for with the animation. Okay, so the Fire Nation was breaking bounds, right? And in the animation, Master Paku was not going to train her until he saw that she had her grand's like symbol or hair bracelet. I forgot the exact item, and he recognized that because he knew grand, and it brought a personal connection to Katara, and then he trained her. Okay, so that's another character change where they created artificial conflict with the whole you got to train the woman thing, blah blah blah, and then the pointless change. Oh, now the women are gonna fight too, which was meaningless because Aang was the only one who could solve the problem, being the Avatar. He's the only one who could do it. There was no chance against the Fire Nation. They had a chance to repel them as long as the moon was alive, but ultimately the Fire Nation had greater resources to bring to bear, with more and more ships just bombarding them out of existence, and eventually the full moon become a new moon, and that's that. So I just want to point out you can analyze every change in that way, where they're deliberately changing the original story because they apparently feel the original story is not good and they have disdain for it. So let's do my episode walkthrough. We've been going on for like 10 minutes now, and then we'll be out of here. Okay. So now one other thing to say, the final two live action episodes total about 2 hours of runtime. They events in the final two live action episodes sum up events in about 5 or 6 episodes, if I recall correctly, of the animation. And they add their own crap in here when they, again, just more bad writing. So now, so we have Zuko is alive. He's been hiding. Uncle Iroh has been hiding him because he knows Zuko's on this quest. And Uncle Iroh, for you to understand, Uncle Iroh is not really trying to kill him, catch the Avatar. He's trying to help Zuko realize his own path in life, and hopefully that is not his father's path. Okay. I'll admit I kind of like live action Zhao. He's conniving. He's sneaky. I don't know why. Okay, so again, compare and contrast. Okay, he went to the fire priest, whereas again showing disdain for the storyline. Okay, in the live action in the anime, Zhao was at the siege of one of the I forgot the exact battle, but he found a hidden underground library and did research in it and to learn a lot of secrets. Now, that library, if I recall correctly, is a plan for the Order of the White Lotus, which plays critical events in sequence. And they could have planted that here, but either they don't know about that because they didn't watch that far ahead, or they're going to change the nature of the Order of the White Lotus, okay? So, just keep that in mind. This was the faking the death of Zuko, and we got, the kids moving their way north again. These individual scenes, okay, perfectly good. Like they could have repurposed all these original scenes, like them arriving on Appa, to the much better storyline of the original. That's all I could say at this point because it's horrible. And so now we have Azula's story here, right? Azula shouldn't be in this season, okay? I fully support the increased role for Fire Master Ozai in here because I like building the menace of the villain when you see him rather than be told about him, okay? So the flashbacks with Zuko, also showing some of the scenes of him giving orders. I again, limited exposure. They got the right actor to play him. Daniel Kim, he knows how to play like a mean looking badasses, and so he's ripped for the role, and I'm okay with the actor. But Azula did not need to be really in this season, and they did the character a great disservice. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. I mean, she does kind of appear. She's in the opening sequence. She's the firebender that you can't see the face of, right? And she's a flashback character. But she only makes she makes very brief appearances. You know what I mean? Her major role to prominence is at the end of the first season in the animation when Ozai sends her after Zuko and Iroh. Okay, so that's when Azula should have walked onto the scene in the epilogue to the final animation. Instead, they did this long drawn thing where they brought out it just you hear it in my voice. I'm so disappointed. They've ruined her character by trying to make her sympathetic, and she's not. She's crazy, okay, spoilers, blatant spoilers, okay. So if you don't want spoilers for the animation, it turns out that so all the benders they're linked to spirit creatures. Like for example, the water benders are linked to the balance between the moon and the ocean spirit, right? The earth benders are linked to the mole bears, I think they're called. The airbenders are linked to, I want to say to the sky buffalo, but then I think there's another creature involved. And the firebenders are linked to the dragons, okay? And we'll learn later because eventually Zuko and Aang learn to firebend. They start from Uncle Iroh, but they go to the last surviving dragons that the Order of the White Lotus is hiding. And the dragons teach them the true way to firebend, okay? Which is, and I don't know if the creators are going for an analogy with this or not, but it's like the light side and the dark side of the Force, okay? The true way to firebend is not to grab a holder with your will and impose it on the fire, but it's to be natural with it and flow and all that sort of stuff. And it's more about being in balance with nature, and it's a more powerful way, okay? And but apparently the Fire Lords like Sozin and all have been going crazy because they've been doing it the dark side way. It's making them go crazy for power. And Azula has gone crazy. She is mentally gone, just like our father is gone, and our grandpa was gone, and our great grandpa was gone. They're mental gone jobs. Zuko isn't like that because he had exposed to Uncle Iroh after Uncle Iroh, after Uncle Iroh retired from the military when his son died, and he realized war was horribly wrong. In this case, like the offensive war, he and Ozai took his place as the heir and eventually the Fire Lord after that shenanigans. Iroh retired into teaching Zuko and mentoring him, and Ozai was fine with that because he didn't want to spend time with his kids anyway, and that's why Zuko learned the core of the better way to firebend and why he didn't go crazy, except being driven crazy by the lessons his father taught him. I know I'm going on and on, but it's just, at this point, it's the differences that matter more than the visuals. And great, beautiful visuals, the acting for what they give it, they're doing a good job. You know, the ruined hairstyle. Now here again, over and over again, they keep calling the Avatar useless because he hasn't trained and doesn't want to fight and whatever. And they're trying to make this weird sort of like, are they just gonna play the trap card at the end where they have to go, I want to solve? Because at the end, Aang solves it without killing anyone at the end. Well, I mean, without killing Ozai at the end. And they say, well, violence is wrong. You were all wrong to make me violent. Are they just gonna go with that nonsense? I don't know. So this is the Avatar Kiruk, if I remember correctly. So in the animation, the reason Aang couldn't help with the battle much was because he spent the entire time going on a journey through the spirit world, and this is when we first meet Ko, who they turned into a crazy monster, as opposed to a sort of amoral spirit, right? And it's a brave moment where Aang has to control his emotions. Avatar Roku comes to him and advises him about Ko, and he has to control his emotions so Ko cannot gain power over him and try to steal his face. And you see Aang doing that. And obviously, there's a little anime sort of humor scene in there, which you won't be able to do in the live action. That will be an adaptation change, okay? And instead of Aang's journey through the spirit world, showing him try to help the people, we get this sort of another avatar telling him, you gotta be violent, you gotta get, yeah. I mean, this is not the spirit of the original show. And this is honestly, their writing is just atrociously bad. It's tropic, I guess you would say. Again, you know, the battle plan, which where Iroh points out the flaws in his battle plan, but he doesn't know that Zhao has this moon, destroy the moon plan. You know, and this is the whole stupid scene where Kitara wants to fight, but he won't. Again, they would have been much better with this. Now I know why they're doing this. They're trying to show that Kitara, on her own studies, has become a master waterbender, which is not true. Okay, he taught her after he recognized her grand's amulet or whatever it was, and then at the end in the anime he says, "You are now master enough to teach the Avatar how to waterbend." That's book one. Water ends. That there were people who don't apparently didn't remember that from. Again, I don't want to harp on the people who go walk the Rainbow Syndrome or whatever, but why this change? There's no need for this. What it showed is that if they did the anime way, it would have shown him overcoming a tribal tradition which is protective, right? By recognizing a familial connection, bridging the gap, and saying, okay, I'll teach you. You're not a Northern Warrior tribe, but like bridging the gap because the Southern Warrior tribe has different traditions. Okay, balance. And then that's the end of our first episode there. And then there's the jerk who ruined it. I believe Albert Kim is the showrunner. Anyway. And so there isn't even much to say along the way. It's so sad. Like why? Did this new one pop up? Yeah, it did. Okay. Let's hide. There we go. Okay. So now we have. So what happened again? This is taking away Aang's agency. Okay. Now I'm okay. No, forget that. I'm okay with the change to this mission where Aang, Sokka, and Katara go on the mission together. I'm okay with that. Okay, because it's a little. In the context that they made Aang as powerful as they have in the show already, it's problematic. But in the context of a storytelling change where you would have the Avatar working with others, that was another thing. This show is driving home the theme of Aang is being told he has to bear it all alone and work and whatever. But that wasn't a theme in the animation. The animation always, we have to work together. The Avatar is not... He's a standalone vigilante when he has to be, but he's a balancer, an ambassador, a peace bringer, a leader. He brings people together, okay? And this scene would fit with that, but not their theme of making the Avatar go it alone. And it's a well-done scene. I'm okay with the scene. I know that people are going to quibble over certain things, but it shows Aang and Katara work together, Sokka and Appa all working together. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. And similarly, when Aang went on the solo mission, when they go on that mission, they find all the other ships. Now, the big change here, right? And honestly, if they had just... Aang takes out another 10 or 15 ships on his own before returning to say the Armada is overwhelming. Okay? Understand that, right? They should have shown some of that going on. And now we get into the plot, this is the whole, again, playing this stupid conflict out for, the stupid modern conflict out, and has no bearing being in here. The bad hairdo. The backstory about how he got the super magic dagger that can kill the immortals. Again, stupid. All he had to do, because they had already become mortal, all he had to do was hit them with a firebending. No reason to have the magic dagger in here. It's stupid. I'm okay with the Momo heroic sacrifice. That worked out pretty well. And they use it as a means to explain the moon spirit presence and all that. I'm okay there. You know, this whole bit played out way too long. And again, why doesn't before he even so Uncle Iroh should have just the way it's set up in the show. Uncle Iroh had plenty of time to turn Zhao into a crispy critter before he even touched the spirits. Okay. Likewise, Aang could have done the same thing, blessed him back. Aang is there, I believe, at this point. See, another thing, after Aang got out of the spirit world, while Aang was still in the spirit world, Zuko stole his body, explaining why Aang wasn't around for a good chunk of this conflict, thus allowing the other characters to sort of shine. And, you know, then they go back to the moving all their powers, and his Koizilla, showing that the power of the Avatar is overwhelming. You know, we get to flashback to Zuko. Again, the Koizilla's battle is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I wish it was a little less Godzilla-like with the spines, but and more humanoid like Aang had made it. Okay, fine, whatever. Anyone bitching about this thing did not watch the animation because his Koizilla's rampage is identical to the you know the black and white's right out of there. This is us sacrificing ourselves. Again, no problem with that. That's almost literally how it occurred in the animation. The hairstyle is gone for good. You know, and then Paku delivers the same line that she can eat Aang, and I know people, whatever. And this is the first sign of Iroh and Zuko moving away from the Fire Lord. And Zuko is just tired, which he's finally starting to realize his father's a dick. You know, again, no problem with most of this. This scene right here should have been when Azula was introduced. Right here, this would have been the point, just like in the animation when Azula first shows up. Not in the battle, but in him setting him after Zuko and Iroh. And that's that. Okay. So this can be saved with new writers and new showrunner next season. This can be saved. It's like just how Manny Coto made dramatic improvements in Star Trek Enterprise season 4, which doesn't make the whole show watchable, but it was much better than before. You can save this show. Okay. Well, they're gonna do it? No, probably not. They're probably already filming. They're probably already written the scripts for their season 2 and are already animating them, so it's dead. You know, I'll probably wind up. I don't know if I'm gonna do a whole other season of this garbage, because I'd rather just talk about good stuff like Shogun or some other good stuff. So my reviews are sharp or whatever. Anyway, I'm not gonna belabor this. It's been almost 30 minutes. My conclusion on the basis of the 8 episodes, $20 million per episode, wasted money because of horrible writing with arrogant writers who did not know as I remind you, who had apparently had disdain for the original storyline and just wanted to write their own version of events thinking they were better writers. Okay. That's the truth. That's the bottom line. I'm Matt Cole because I say so. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your lives. Stay safe. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike. Share this video out, please, if you can. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.